Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Justin here. I haven't been able to play some video games the last couple of months, like that Hajime no Ippo PS3 review I did. I did that. I've been playing that game since October, played it out throughout November, and then made that review since then, and then pumping out game reviews I've been making between August and October. But unfortunately, I'm now out of, let's say, in the can footage, and I won't be able to play some video games for a little while. So I'm just going to focus on reviewing between, let's say, Japanese movies, Japanese anime, and Japanese dramas again, just to fill that Friday space. So for today's review, I'm going to review a Japanese drama, the original 3-Nen B-Gumi Kinpachi-Sensei. It was a television series that debuted in 1979, so the focus of this review is going to be based on the first series, and it had specials and other seasons throughout the year, and finally had its conclusion with a special in 2011. And pretty much, I'm pretty sure you guys know the Gintama spin-off called Kinpachi-Sensei. So that title is a parody of this long-running Japanese drama series, Kinpachi-Sensei. So, and of course, if you've seen, let's say, the live-action GTO, the first one from '98, they do make references to that respective series. And so it's been something that I've been wanting to watch for a long time. I know that some fan subgroups back in the day did fan sub for, let's say, the 90s and 2000s series, but like I wanted to watch the original 1979 series first. And finally, I got that chance by watching it on Unext, a Japanese streaming service. And not only do they have the first season, they have the rest of the entire franchise on it as well as the Japanese Hulu, if you want to know where to watch it. Of course, you can get on DVD here in Japan, but DVDs are expensive here, and don't want to get into that. And yes, I could theoretically rent, but I'm never really home that much. I'm on the train a lot. I'm at restaurants like this a lot, so these are the perfect places for me, with the streaming services to watch such programs. And I got the chance to finally watch the very first ever Kinpachi-Sensei series. So, as I said before, this series made its debut in 1979. Of course, the references to the Smashing Pumpkins song. But yes, so it's about this teacher named Kinpachi Sakamoto, who is played by Tatsuya Takeda. And it's kind of funny, this goes back to another GTO connection, the 98 GTO live action series. So he admits he's a fan of it. And it's kind of funny, a year prior to being in GTO, Takashi Soramachi, who played Onizuka in that series, actually co-starred with Tatsuya Takeda in another drama called Virgin Road, which is something I saw a long time ago, which I'm going to have to watch again at some point, and I would like to review. So, yes. So it pretty much is about this teacher named Kinpachi Sakamoto. But he lets his students call him by his first name, Kinpachi-Sensei. And at the time in Japan in the late 70s, and especially throughout the remaining decades, the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s, calling your teacher by their first name, even if you use the sensei honorific at the end, was kind of considered a bit too casual and too informal. But for the most part, he is also referred to as Sakamoto-sensei throughout the rest of the series. So the series takes place at the beginning of the fall semester, and he's here to take over the class 3B. And I say, if you're very interested in getting to know, let's say, the Japanese education system, especially the junior high level, any Kinpachi-Sensei series will do. It doesn't matter if it could be the very first series, the second series, the specials, and so on. But yes, so by watching this series, you kind of get an idea of where, the youth of Japan, the education of Japan was at this particular time, and you kind of get an idea of what the issues were. So, it kind of covers, a lot of issues that are still, relatable to this very day. It really talks about, teenage delinquency, which is always going to be, an issue, but it is always expressed in very different ways. Like, take, for example, there's this girl who's always going to, let's say, disco clubs. Keep in mind, this is the 70s. And Kinpachi-Sensei has to, let's say, prevent this girl from, let's say, ruining her life just by going to these discos with all these boys, who just want to get under her skirt. And it's kind of funny, he's kind of willing to, let's say, do what he has to do to, let's say, reach their level and then bring them back up. Like if he has to go to a disco club and just to get their attention, he's willing to dance, just to get their attention. He's kind of willing to do unconventional things that Japanese teachers would do just to get through to his students. So that's kind of like one of the main appeals of this series. And it's kind of funny also in one particular episode, of course, in this particular drama, the actor who plays Tatsuya Takeda, he's actually a celebrity within the world himself. So even for 1979, let's see, on this side you have Kinpachi-Sensei, and on this side you have the actor Takeda. They're meeting like this, say face to face, and they're shaking hands and saying, "Hey, what's up? I'm a fan of your work," and all that. And it's kind of funny, this is like long before, this Star Wars is barely out. And it's kind of interesting to see, like, these effects are effectively used to make you convinced, like, you have the same actor talking to each other. But yes. And of course, it also talks about other issues, since, it deals with, let's say, students in their last year of junior high. They also have to talk, like, we got to get these kids into good high schools, just to help the reputation of the junior highs. And in some instances, like, some students will say, like, I don't want to go to high school. I just want to, continue my father's business or work in my father's factory. And these are things that do happen in the actual education system. And they have to, let's say, learn how to cope with, like, okay, how do we convince the student, to change their mind, to give their future a shot. And at the same time, they got to learn, okay, maybe this is the right path for him. So you kind of have that aspect as well. And it also, very early on, it deals with like a very serious issue that, maybe not rare in Japan, but, it still happens. And it also talks about, let's say, teen pregnancy and how they have to deal with that. And, the societal reaction around that, how it affects the girl's family, how it affects the father's family, and, how it also affects the reputation of the school. And if there's one thing that really does a good job of showcasing to not just, say, a domestic audience, but to, let's say, an international audience, is the, the responsibility of what teachers have. I mean, especially in Japan. And I think, if you're watching this from a very foreign perspective or as a non-Japanese, a lot of this will be culture shock to you. So take, for example, you get a speeding ticket or something, or you kind of get caught breaking curfew. So in that instance, if you're, let's say, an American, they call your parents. But if this happens in Japan, and this is true to this day as well, they don't call, your teacher, they don't call your parents, they inform your school. So let's just say, some boy gets in trouble for, let's say, groping a girl on the streets. They call the teacher. So, and the teacher has to go to the police, station just, to get the kid and, apologize to the victim and talk to the police about the situation. And it kind of really shows the kind of, respect and authority and responsibility teachers have in Japan. It's like, they have to, let's say, shake these students up to becoming productive members of society. And it's just kind of really interesting to see teachers having this particular role. And of course, being in the Japanese education system for 16 years as I was, I was witness to this, even though I was never really, a part of these kinds of situations. But these really do happen. And in addition to Takeda Tatsuya, there are some other big name actors who actually made their starts, not just in this series, but in other future installments. So take, for example, Aya Ueto. She was a big star in the 2000s. She got her started on the Kinpachi-Sensei series. So did Kazuya Kamenashi, and a lot of other big name actors and actresses. And one big name actor that got his start in this first series is Shingo Tsurumi, and he's well known to the international world as Sagawa in Yakuza 0. So you actually do see this actor as a 15-year-old in this series. And another big name actress in this season is Mitsuko Baisho. She was known as the Amazoness in her prime. And at this time, she was the first wife of Antonio Inoki. She was, when this series was being broadcasted, she was still married to him at the time, and they divorced in 1989. So, And eventually, spoiler alert, in a later series, she actually the character she plays does become Kinpachi-Sensei's wife. So yeah. So of course, you kind of learn that, hey, teachers are human, students are human, and eventually certain rules and traditions, they do have their limits, and you have to understand, like, take account, let's say, the human nature side of things, and then learn how to apply that, especially in a rigid culture, in a rigid culture society like Japan, and especially its education system. So you kind of get an idea of, it's not just, a good portrayal of it, but a good critique, the issues it faces, and, possible solutions to, let's say, how we can approach these issues. Maybe not just, as it applies to, let's say, the youth of Japan, but to maybe other, students as well. And lastly, what made Tatsuya Takeda a very effective, actor for this character for 30 years is that he actually, I'm not sure if he had a background in teaching, but he actually did study education in his hometown of Fukuoka, and they actually do apply a lot of Tatsuya Takeda's, background into the character. Like, they're both from Fukuoka, they both have backgrounds in judo and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And there's a lot of other hit songs that will be featured in this particular, first season. Like, if you've seen Hajime no Ippo, they go to, there's an episode where they go to karaoke, and Takamura starts off by singing The Champion by Shinji Tanimura. Okay, so here's the funny thing. That song is actually featured in one of the very first few episodes of this particular series, where this boy goes to a boxing gym, and they actually do play the actual song. So if you want to hear how the song authentically sounds like, as opposed to the Takamura version, then see this series. But I'm someone, if you're going to see like a long-standing franchise like this, watching any installment may work for some people, but for me personally, I want to start at the beginning, because I want to see, how the character evolves and how he develops from, this as a young man to when he retires, and of course see how, society has changed from then to now, and let's just see, like, what issues are relevant today, what issues are, unique to that time, and so on. So if you want to know a lot about the Japanese education system to some degree, Kinpachi-Sensei is a really good one. It is really realistic, it's very down to earth, and for me personally, it's uniquely, relatable. So if you're in Japan, once again, you can watch it on Japanese Hulu or Unext, and maybe other, but it's not on Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus or whatever. But yeah, or if you don't, subscribe to any, streaming services, there's always the DVDs and whatnot. If you want to rent them, that's fine. And if you can afford retail prices, that's fine as well. So until then, see you next review.